Before we can actually edit a file, probably the simplest thing you can do in Vi is move around within a file. When I say moving around, I'm talking about simply moving from line to line or moving within a line without actually making any changes to Vi. Now you might think, well, that's pretty obvious, isn't it? You just use up and down and the arrow keys and page up, page down and so on. Well, that might be true and it might not be true. These keys that you're referring to would be PC keyboard special keys. Many Unix terminals don't have these keys on them. Most of the recent ones do, but some of the earlier Unix keyboards did not. And what you'll find is that even though the keyboard that you might be using has those keys on it, the version of Vi that you're using may not accommodate those keys. So you could, for example, use the down arrow key to move down to the next line and find that it doesn't do anything at all. That perhaps Vi just beeps at you saying, I don't understand that. So it's just important to know that you might not be able to use those keys. And if you can't, you need to learn all the other keys that are used when using Vi. So I'll show them to you now. Before I do show them to you, I'm just going to show them to you in list format. And in the list, if you see a little tick box next to a particular command, that means that you could prefix a number onto the command itself. So if the command was, for example, J, which you'll find soon means to go down one line, instead of typing in J, you could type in 5J or 35J, which instead of taking you down one line would then take you down 5 lines or 35 lines. So the ones with the tick box allow that sort of prefixing with the number, and if it doesn't have a tick box then you can't do that. Needless to say that every command here that I'm going to show you must be issued in command mode. So make sure you're in command mode before you do any of these. If you ever are not sure if you're in command mode or not, a useful tip is to just press escape. What that will do is will automatically take you into command mode if you're not in command mode already, and if you are in command mode it will simply do nothing at all. So you know that every time you've pressed escape you're guaranteed to be in command mode. Anyway, on with the commands. Moving around within the current line first. Now, if you type in space or the L key, that will move ahead one character. Note that you can also try and use the right arrow, but the right arrow may or may not work. Space and L will definitely work. Let's have a look at that. So here I am in the file, type in space a few times, and you can see the cursor moving along through the file. I'll also now try typing in L instead. You'll just have to take my word for it that I'm typing L. And again, I'm moving through the file. Incidentally, on this particular keyboard, in this particular version of Vi and Telnet, the right arrow key is also working beautifully, as you can see. Now to go back on the current line, use backspace or H. Now notice that both of these and the previous ones can also be prefixed by a number, and I'll show you that. I'm hitting the backspace key now and I'm moving backwards. And now what I'll do is, from this point here, I'll just type in the number 5, and now I'll type in the backspace. So notice that it jumped 5 spaces back. Also the H key is working as well. The $ will take you to the last character on the line, whilst the up hat, or caret, 0, 0, 0, get you to the first character on the line. Let's have a look at those. And $ takes me to the notice the cursor flashing on the last there, and 0 takes me to the beginning, or $ to the end, and up hat, the caret character, to the beginning. And it makes obviously no sense at all to prefix any of those commands with some kind of number. Slightly more complex than any of the commands above is you type in the letter F followed by some character. So you might type in FP or F space or F question mark or FJ or F6. And what that will do is will move the cursor to the next instance of that character on that line. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Now let's say I wanted to jump through the various commas on this line. I could type in F, comma, F, comma, F, comma, and each time I type in those two characters it jumps me to the next comma. Or I could type in F, S, and it jumps me to the next S. And finally, for moving around, if I use the semicolon, it takes me to the next instance of character X. So I don't actually have to keep going F, FP, 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 FP. I can do my first FP, and then for all the subsequent P's that I want to find, I can just type in the semicolon. I'll show you that. And so I wanted to find all the N's on this line. I can type in Fn, and it takes me to the next N. And now I'll just, instead of typing F anything, I'll just type semicolon. So semicolon, 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 and there's no more. To move between lines, we can start with the following. The Enter key, or J, or the plus sign, will move me to the next line. You can try and use a down arrow too, and it may or may not work. Now I'm going to use key 1, 2, 3 times. I'm going to use J 1, 2, 3, and I'll use plus 1, 2, 3, and all of those, as you can see, work. You can use K or minus to go back to the previous line. And I'll use minus 1, 2, 3, or K 1, 2, 3, and incidentally the up arrow key also works on this particular keyboard. You might be wondering, why do they choose J and K? K. Notice that if you recall from the last slide, that H was the character to go back and L was the character to go forward on one line. And H, J, K and L are all next to each other on your keyboard. H to move left, L to move right, and J and K to move up and down. So theoretically, people on those old keyboards that didn't have arrow keys, they just rested their four fingers on H, J, K and L and used those to go around their document. Moving along, we've got Control F to go forward one page. You can think of that as a page down, or Control B to go back one page, and Control D to go down half a page, and Control U to go up half a page. Let's have a look at those. Now I'll go forward one page, Control F, scrolls me down a page, or B to go back to the page that I was on. Now I'll use Control D to go down half a page. It's gone down half a page. And I'll go down half a page more. Now I'll go up half a page, and up half a page again. Okay. Next we have capital G, which, when used by itself, simply means go to the last line in the file. However, you can also use capital G prefixed by a number, which means go to the first line in the file, if you use the number 1, or if you use any number n, go to line n in the file. So let's have a look at that. First I'll use G by itself, so capital G, notice it has to be a capital. Okay, so we've gone to the very last line in the file. Now I'll type in 1, capital G, and it takes me to the top line in the file. And now I'll type in, say, 10, 1, 0, capital G, and it's taken me to the 10th line in the file. To finish this module, I'll show you some other interesting ways that you can move around the file. We've got /pattern. Now this is your find facility. This is how you find text in your document. You type in a /, then you type in the text that you're looking for, and then you press enter. And you will be scrolled then to the point where your cursor is resting on the first letter of the first instance after where you were of that particular pattern. It won't be the first one in the file, it'll be the first one after wherever you started from. Let's say I wanted to look for the next instance of the word body. I would type in /. And notice the / appears in the bottom left hand corner of the screen. So when you type in the word that you're looking for, in this case body, it appears after the slash in the bottom left hand corner. Now I press enter, and the cursor is now flashing on the first instance of the word body in this document. Now in this clever version of Enhanced Vi, or Improved Vi, called Vim, it also does the wonderful thing of highlighting all the instances of the word that you're looking for. So body is not only got the cursor resting on it, it's also highlighted. But you probably won't see that in your version of Vi. But that's a very nice thing to be able to do. Once you've specified that you want to search for a particular pattern, you can use N to move to the next occurrence, or capital N to use to move to the previous occurrence of that same pattern. So if I wanted to search for the next occurrence of the word body in my document, then I would simply type in N, and I'll do that now. N. Okay, so there's another instance of the word body. N again. And again. N again. 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 And now I'm just near the bottom of the file. So what do you think is going to happen if I press N again when there's no more instances in the file? Well, it wraps around and goes back up to the top. That is the default behavior for searching in Vi. That is changeable, by the way. You can set that as one of your options. We'll learn all about setting options in the last module in this chapter. So what else can we do? Well, we can use W to go forward, or 5W to go forward 5 words, of course. We can use B to go back 1 word. Let's have a look at that. Okay, I'll just hit W a few times. W, 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 W. Notice that punctuation is treated as a word, or I could do 20W, and it jumps down to the end of the next line, which is obviously 20 words away. Again, I can type in B, 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 B. Notice it's sitting on a comma there, that's the beginning of the word. B, and so on. Another useful and very interesting option in Vi, which is not available in most text editors, is you can use the %sign, that is actually a %sign, believe it or not, to find a matching bracket. If you're sitting on any of those types of brackets, square brackets, round brackets, or curly brackets, then you can use the %sign to find the one that corresponds to it, if there is one. And if there isn't one, it'll probably just beep at you. Let's have a look. So here I am sitting in the document, sitting on a bracket, and if I type in the %sign, it takes me to the corresponding bracket. And if I type in bracket again, it takes me back to the other one. %, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Sadly, for HTML, GML, there is no matching facility for angle brackets, or as you might call them, less than and greater than signs. So if I did a % on this bracket here, it just beeps at me. The less than and greater than brackets are not considered real brackets as far as Vi is concerned. There is an interesting option in C to move to the next or previous C function. Now, if you're not a C programmer, then you won't know what a C function is, but for most people, they'll just simply use it to move to the top and bottom of the file. Let me show you. Now I'll use a pair of left square brackets. 1, 2, jumps to the beginning of the file. I'll use a pair of right square brackets, jumps to the end of the file. So you can think of those as useful ways to jump to the beginning and end of the file if you're not a C programmer. Finally, you can use M, the letter M, the command M, to mark a line with a label, and the label is one of the characters A to Z. So you can add 26 different labels to your document. You can think of them as little bookmarks in your document. If you've got a very long document, you might find a spot that you want to come back to, so you can mark it. And you might find that it's useful to choose a letter that corresponds to the thing that you're marking. So if you found the beginning of the index of the document, you might like to say MI, I for index. Or if you find a useful table in the document, you might mark that with MT. You've obviously got to remember what you've marked what with. And also notice that if you close out of Vi and come back into Vi, all your bookmarks will have been cleared. So your bookmarks, or your little markers, whatever you want to call them, are only valid for the current Vi session. Anyway, let me give you an example of that. Before I do, I'll show you how you can jump to a bookmark. Use quote and then the name of the bookmark. So go to the line labelled with whatever that was, quote T or quote I or quote A. I'll now mark this. This is the body tag in the document, so I'll mark that with MB. I'm choosing B arbitrarily as B for body. Now if I scroll on through the document, doesn't matter where I go. Now, doesn't matter where I am, I can type in quote B, and it takes me back to the body tag because I've marked it with a B. Incidentally, you can type in quote quote to take you back to the last place that you jumped from. And that place doesn't have to be marked, it's just wherever you were when you jumped to your bookmark. So you can use 26 different bookmarks in your document if you want, you just have to remember what they all are. Well, that's all the ways that I can think of that are useful for moving around within a document.